content carried in here is suitable for general family viewing.
Good morning, learners and everyone else at home who is watching this lesson. My name is Teacher Mary. I'll take you through an English lesson. The lesson will be on determiners, and I hope that you are going to follow and enjoy the lesson. So I've said the topic is on determiners. Now, determiners are English words which come before nouns, and we all know what nouns are. Nouns are names of people, names of places, and things. So we use determiners before the nouns, not after the nouns. Now, right from when we started learning determiners, and maybe the first ones that we learned were articles. The articles are the first determiners that we learned. Even in our preschool, we learned articles sometimes without knowing that they are articles. So the articles are a, an, and the. These are the determiners that we learned first in our primary English syllabus, and we'll start with the article there. There is a determiner or an article that limits a noun to one which is already known. For example, when we say, give me the book, when we write give me the book, it is about a specific book which is well known by the person who is asking for the book and the person who is being told to give the book. So article there can be used with singular and plural nouns. Article there, or the word there, is a determiner which is used before nouns. In this case, it is used before the noun book. And according to this sentence, the person who is asking for the book and the person who is to give the book are aware of this specific book which is being asked for. When I say give me, that is one sentence. And I've said it can be used with singular or plural nouns. And I can change this sentence to plural and say, give me the books. These are books which are well known by the two people who are having a conversation. So this one is used before, this word is the determiner, and this word is in plural. This one is in singular, showing that article there is used both with plural and with singular nouns. I can give another example. Example 3. Give me the red pencils. This one is specific, only talking about a specific color, that is the red pencils, not any other pencil. The person is asking for only the red pencil. So article there, in this case, we have seen it is used with both singular and plural nouns, and refers to a particular or specific noun which is known to both those people, the person who is asking and the person who is to give the item. Now then we have the other articles. Okay, before we move to the other articles, article there can also be used with an item, a noun of its own kind. A specific noun of a kind. For example, when I say a specific noun of a kind, I mean it may be the only one in the whole world. For example, the moon, the sun, the moon and the sun. We only have one moon, so we only have one sun. So when I talk about the sun rises in the east, no one will ask which sun, because we only have one sun in the solar system. Our earth only has one moon, so no one will ask which moon, which sun. So it refers to a noun which is the only one of its kind. It can also talk about before nouns of institutions, before nouns referring to institutions, before nouns referring to institutions. For example, the Kenyatta University. We have only one Kenyatta University. The University of Nairobi, we only have one. We also talk about institutions. So in that case, it refers to the institution and also number one here above. That means we have only one Kenyatta University and one Nairobi University in the whole world. There is none like them. So names of institutions. We also have names of organizations. We have names referring to organizations like the United Nations. The United Nations. When you talk about the United Nations, it is referring to this. It refers to organizations which are well known. You do not have to ask which is that United Nations because it is well known. We also use it before natural features. We use the word there before natural features such as the Nile, the Himalayas, the Sahara Desert, so these are natural features. So we use the word there before natural features now, or nouns referring to natural features. Now then we move on to the next determiners, which is a and an, and we start with a. When you talk about, when we use there, we say it is used with specific nouns. The opposite, the opposite is when we come to a. Now a is used with general nouns. Okay, let's take the first example that we had. Give me the books. Now if we replace determiner there with a, we'll say give me a book. In this case, in the first case, you find that this one is referring to a certain book which is well known, but in this case the book is not specific, it is just a general book. So that is why we are using a. And as we said that there can be used with singular and plural nouns, the word a or determiner a can only be used with singular nouns. So article there is only used with singular nouns with words that start with consonants. Consonants. So we can have a book, a girl, or even a boy. So these are things that these are words that are learned right from class 3. Even class 1, they learn this use of a. Then we move to an. An is another article which is used with general nouns. It is general, not specific like article there. And it's used with vowel sounds. Words that start with vowel sounds like an egg, an umbrella. And apart from that, it is also used with words, some of the words that start with consonant sounds but may have the first letter, which is a consonant, being silent, like the word air. So find that this one is H there is silent, so you will say an air because this is silent H. So that is the use of the articles, the article the, article a, and article an. We move on to use of other determiners. The other determiners that we'll talk about are determiner sum, and determiner any. Sum, any, determiner many, and much. These are determiners which are sometimes confused and we interchange their uses, but let's look at how they are used in sentences. We look at the first one, which is sum. So the word sum is used with countable and uncountable nouns. These are countable nouns, are nouns that we can count, like we had the first examples, like a book, a pencil, a boy, a girl, a stone. You can count, you can say I have 2 stones, I have 3 stones. So in that case we are using it with countable nouns. So with countable nouns, it shows the amount, of something, or the amount of the noun, or also the quantity. Shows the amount or quantity of the noun. The first one with countable nouns, I have 3 pencils. I have 3 pencils. We can also replace some of the words here. Instead of saying 3, we say I have some pencils. This one is used with plural noun. This word is plural. And we can also use it in singular. I have. Okay, it is not used in singular because you can't have the word some and use with one item. So it is only used with plural nouns. Then we move to uncountable nouns. Use of the word some with uncountable nouns. Like we have items that we don't count. We can't count them. Like liquids, we don't count water. We don't count tea. We don't count milk. So we say I have some milk in the glass. I have some flour. So I write I have some flour. So you find that you can't count the flour, so that's why you are using some. It is also used with positive nouns, positive ideas. Now you see that here you have an amount of flour. If we take the opposite, if you don't have flour, you cannot say I have some flour. So it shows that it is positive. You have some amount of the item that you are referring to. That is the use of some. Let's look at the use of any. Any is a word that is usually confused with some. That's why we are looking at it. Determiner any is still used with an amount of something. An amount of something. An amount of the noun which is being referred to in this case. But it is the opposite of some in that it is used in the negative. It is used with negative ideas. The word any or determiner any is used with negative ideas. An example, here we said I have some pencils and we have replaced the word 3 with some. If you don't have pencils, you would say do not have any pencil. I do not have any pencil. So you find that it can be used with singular nouns because here it is about pencil, or you can say I do not have any pencils. We can also say I don't have any flour. I don't have any flour. So you find that the word any is used with negative ideas, while the word some is used with positive ideas. Now both the word some and any can also be used to ask questions. So they can be used interrogatively to ask questions. For example, if somebody asks, do you have some flour? It is a question. If you answer your question in the positive, you will use some. But if it is negative, that is if you don't have, you will use the word any. You can say yes, I have some flour. I have some flour. And then if you answer in the negative, that is, if you don't have flour, you'll say no, I don't have any flour. So to differentiate between the two words, the determiner some and determiner any, bear in mind that determiner some is used in positive ideas, while determiner any is used with negative ideas. We move on to our next determiner, which is many. The next determiner that we are going to talk about is determiner many. So many is a determiner or a word which is used with countable nouns, because you can count them. For example, when I have 10 sweets, another person has sweets in a packet. This person can count the sweets, they are 10, but if they are in a packet of sweets, if someone has a packet of sweets, he or she may not be able to count the sweets, but because they are in a packet, but the person can say, I have many sweets. So it means that it is more than one. Even when there are 10, you can still say that I have many sweets, but sometimes things may not be counted, and therefore you use the word many to refer to the amount or the quantity of the items that you have. The other one, okay, before we move to the other one, which is much, we can also use determiner many in asking questions. So it is used interrogatively. For example, how many books do you have? The answer can be, you can give the specific number of the books that you have by saying, I have 10 books, I have 5 books. Sometimes the number may not be specific, so you say, I have many books. So that is the use of the word many or determiner many. Now we use the word much. We look at the uses of the word much or determiner much and how it can be used in a sentence. Now we have said that the word many is used with countable nouns. It is used with countable nouns, and the countable nouns are in plural. So the word many is used with plural countable nouns. Then we move on to the word much or determiner much. The word much is used with uncountable. It is used with uncountable nouns. It is used before countable nouns, and it is used the way we use the word many. The only difference is that much is used with uncountable nouns, things we cannot count. For example, I may say that I have much money. In the bank. Now, the word money is a noun which is uncountable, because you can't count the particles that are used to make money. It's just like saying, I have much flour. You can't count the particles that are used to make the flour. So when you say I have much money, it means the particles that make the money, not 100 shillings, not 200 shillings. It means the particles that are used to make the money. They are uncountable. We have things like water. We have things like all liquids. Actually, you can't count them. Then we move on to other determiners, and the determiners are a little. You're looking at determiner a little, little, few, and a few. These are determiners which are usually confused. That is a few versus few, and a little versus little. So we start with a few. This word or determiner, a few, means that it is something which is not so small, not so small in amount, and not so much. That is the meaning of a few. It means that you don't have many of the items, and also you don't have so little of the items that you are talking about. Now, in this case, not only it can be humans, people. In this case, we can talk about people. People, talk about things. You can talk about people, you can talk about things. So examples in sentences, you can say that a few people attended the meeting. Now, when we say a few people attended the meeting, it means that you expected more people to attend, or you expected a higher number of people to attend the meeting, but you find that less than that number have attended. So you say a few people have attended the meeting. A few people attended the meeting. You can also say that a few goats. A few goats were slaughtered. Maybe there was a party and you had expected to have very many people, like maybe 300 persons to attend a party, but maybe only 100 people attended the party. So you reduce the number of goats that were supposed to be slaughtered for the party. Then you only slaughter a few of them. You spare the rest. Okay, so that is the use of the word a few. Then we look at the use of the word few. The word few is another determiner which is usually confused with a few. You are going to see the way it is used and how to differentiate their uses. So the word few. Now the word few is also used, this one is used with plural countable nouns. Both of them, the word a few and few, are used with plural countable nouns. suppose the word a few and a few are used with plural countable nouns to show an amount which is little, to show an amount which is little or not as expected. Now, the difference is that when you say few people, let's take the first example. Few people attended the meeting. It means that fewer people than the one you expected attended the meeting. Let's assume that you are expecting 20 persons to attend, 20 people to attend the meeting. So in this case, when you are using a few, maybe you have 7 people attending the meeting, and in this case, when you are using a few, you have 3 people. When you are using few, you have 3 people attending the meeting. So you find that few is of a lesser quantity than a few, and few is used in the negative, while a few is used in the positive. That is the major difference. And if we may take, let's say that you have stones, you have like 5 stones. So you say, I have a few stones. I have a few stones. And when you have, let's say you have 3, you say, I have few stones. So that is the difference between a few and few. Now we look at the use of little and a little. We look at the uses of little and a little, but from what I've explained, those who are usually confused in the use of a few and few are now in a better position, and the same rules applies to use of little and a little. So we start with a little. This determiner, just like the word a few, is used with uncountable nouns. Now, a few is used with countable nouns. The difference is that the word little is used with uncountable nouns. The word a little is used with uncountable nouns, still to mean a small amount of something. It means a small amount of something. Like when I say, there is a little oil. There's a little oil. This is in the positive. It means you still have some oil that can be used. Now the opposite applies to use of little. It is still used with uncountable nouns. Used with uncountable nouns, still to mean a small amount of something. A small amount, but just like the word few, the amount is lesser than a little. So, for example, we have a glass, maybe of water or oil. We have 2 glasses. I'm assuming the glasses are of the same size. So in the first one, we say this is much. You have put some water. So you say, I have a little water. A little. And in this case, you say, I have little water. So we have seen that the word little and a little are used with small amounts of uncountable nouns to show something. It is used with small amounts of uncountable nouns. Now we move on to our next group of determiners, and this is a group which is very common, and we usually use it in our everyday lives, and that is these, those, that, and these. So we start with this. Now, determiner this is used to show something which is very close to you. For example, this is a duster. It is used with countable nouns which are close to the speaker. Used with countable nouns which are close to the person who is talking. So I've said this is a duster. The duster is very close to me. Then we have the word determiner this. Determiner this is the plural of this, and it is still used with items or things which are close to the speaker, but when there are many. For example, I have these 2 pens, and I'll say I have 2 blue pens. So these are blue pens. The pens are close to me, and that's why I've used the word this. So I can say these pens are blue. It means they are very close to me. Now, apart from looking at things which are very close to you, or referring to things which are very close to you, these 2 words can also refer to ideas which have been mentioned earlier. So the speaker is aware of them. The speaker is aware of these ideas, but they have already been mentioned, maybe in a sentence or in a story that a person is reading. For example, if I say, I was reading a magazine. I was reading a magazine. So I say this magazine was talking about the environment. So it means that when I use the word this, I'm referring to what I was reading. So the word this is referring to an item that have already been mentioned earlier, and the same case applies to the word these. So I'm assuming that I'm changing this sentence to plural. So I'll say I was reading some magazines. So these magazines we're talking about the environment. So we have the word this and we have the word this. The word this is a plural of the word this, and that is how they are used in sentences. Now then we have the word that, determiner that. Now as we use the word this to talk about items which are close to the speaker, we use the word that to talk about items which are far from the speaker, items that are not even seen. So we talk about countable nouns still. Countable nouns not close to the speaker. Not close to the speaker. Okay. So if I may take an example of the first sentence that we have here, I was reading a magazine. This magazine was talking about the environment. We can also, that magazine is not with me now because I've said I was reading a magazine. The word was shows that you read in the past. It can be a few minutes ago, but the fact remains you're not reading it at this particular time. So I can still say that magazine was talking about the environment. So it talks about things that have already been mentioned in the past. It can also refer to something which is not close to the speaker, but it can be seen from afar. The fact remains that it is not near the speaker. Now we move on to the word those. It is used with plural, countable nouns. Plural countable nouns referring to things which are not close to the speaker. Things which are items which are far items, and in this case, nouns. Maybe you have seen some children playing somewhere, and you can say that those children are playing a bad game. Those cars are moving at a high speed. So the word those and the word that are used to refer to items which are not near the speaker, and the word those is used in plural nouns. Then we move on to another group of determiners, and that group is the use of determiner each, the use of determiner every, and the use of determiner no and other. So each, every and no and other. Okay, so we start with determiner each. So determiner each is used to refer to items in a group. So you use the word each to refer to items in a group, but these items are considered individually. The items are considered individually. For example, you have 10 learners in a class, and you say each of the learners performed well in the exam. You can reach there. Each of the learners, you find that you are referring to each of the learners individually, although we have a group of learners in a class. So you talk about each of the learners performed well. And if you are to use a verb to refer to the learners, you'll say each of the learners is a good performer. Not each of the learners, let me write it. Each of the learners studied hard. Or each of the learners is hardworking. Each of the learners is hardworking. So you find that we have used a singular verb to refer to each of those learners. You have not said each of the learners are hardworking. So when you use are in this case, are is a wrong word in that sentence. So you find that these words, the word each refers to an individual person in a group of many. Now we move on to determiner every, and determiner every is more or less used as determiner each. So I'm saying determiner every is used the way we use determiner each. For example, in a sentence, we may have runners, athletes. So I can say every athlete in the team. Every athlete in the team is running. So it means that we have a team of many, a team of people who are running. So a team of runners or a team of athletes, and each one of them is running at this particular moment. So every athlete in the team is running. So we use the word every to refer to an individual in a group. Then we have the word no, determiner no. Okay, and before I forget, the word every is used in singular nouns. The same case applies to the word each. It is used with singular nouns. Then we move to determiner no. So determiner no is used with plural or singular nouns, and it means not one or none. For example, we can say that none of the cows was injured in the accident, or none of the passengers was injured in the accident. It means not even a single cow or even a single passenger was injured in the accident. So we use the word no. An example in a sentence: no book was found in the bag. Maybe you came across a bag, a school bag, that had been left somewhere, but on checking, there was no book inside. So you say that no book was found in the bag. It can also be used with plural nouns. So we change this sentence into plural and say no books were found in the bag. So the word will tell you whether you are going to use a plural or a singular helping verb depending on the tense of the sentence. Now then we move on to other determiners, and the other determiners are several, the word several, or before we move to the word several, I have another one I've not tackled, the word other. The word other or determiner other means something of the same kind. For example, something of the same kind or something which is similar to the one that has been talked about earlier. Something similar to the one that has been talked about earlier. So, if we may take an example of a sentence, give me another plate, it means that the person who is the speaker here has been given another plate earlier, so he or she is asking for a plate, another plate. So it means maybe he will be given a similar plate, or if not similar in color, he'll be given a plate and not a cup. Now, I'm told time is up, and I would have liked to tackle the words several, the word enough, the word a lot of, the word most, fewer, more, and all, but let's plan that for another day. The only thing I would like to say is that this topic is usually tested in KCPE. It is tested in KCPE, and it was tested in 2019. So I'll write the questions which were tested. You can find the question from KCPE past papers. So 2019, number 4 was on determiners. 2016, number 5 and number 7 was on determiners. 2014, number 12 and number 19 were on determiners. 2013, number 7 was on determiners. So learners, I would urge you to go and do the broken passage or the clause, 2019 clause, so that you may lay emphasis on number 4, it is on determiners. 2016, the clause or the broken passage, number 5 and number 7 are on determiners. 2014, we have number 12, which is in the clause, and we also have the other part, the grammar part, number 19. You can look at them. Then we have 2013, number 7 is on determiners. It is always good to refer to past KCP papers, because even the exams which are usually set, most of the times they are based on past papers. The same topics are usually repeated, so it's always good you look at those past papers, and they'll help you a great deal in revising for your KCP. And you should remember that the KCP has not been postponed. Remember, the CS for Education has been saying that now and again, that the exam has not been postponed, so you have to revise. If you want to do well, revise, and mostly revise with past papers, but it is always good to read the notes which are in textbooks. The And when I say textbooks, I don't mean all the textbooks. I mean the course books. They are very important because they base their exams on the course books. So learners revise at home. Parents guide the learners so that they may revise well and revise what is necessary. So for today, it is goodbye. We hope to meet another day to finish on this topic on determiners and maybe look at a few questions that can help us in revising the topic. So for today, it's goodbye and we meet next time.